I have a biology and exercise science background from Hamlin and the University of Minnesota. I have perhaps the strangest sporting background that you will find. I was a competitive swimmer. I played girls hockey when girls hockey was brand new in Minnesota, and I was a synchronized swimmer. My main sport was synchro, so I come from a world of hypermobility, which is not what we're talking about today, right? We are not trying to turn your track athletes into Cirque du Soleil performers, all right? I'm a dog mom. They were very upset that I was getting out of bed to come here this morning, so you're lucky I made it because they don't let me move much once we're settled. Like Rob said, I've been in St. Louis Park. I've been coaching in St. Louis Park. This is my 24th year and my 19th year teaching in St. Louis Park, and I currently am tasked with teaching biology and then some concurrent enrollment, basically PSEO in the school's exercise science courses. Really, really super excited. I just got to say thank you to the Track Coaches Association for letting us come. I'm the first person you're going to see from our organization today, and my colleague Zach is going to be here at 1 o'clock in this same room if you want to hang out with him. We are, along with Alex here, we are part of the Minnesota Strength Coaches Association, and one of our biggest goals is to get out in front of as many sport coaches as we can, because we know that access to strength coaches isn't always available, and we want to give you guys as much information as we can to help you just grow your toolbox a little bit and be able to ask questions if you need to, or have some new resources, right? So the goal for today, and also, y'all, I'm a walker, so it's probably going to drive Rob crazy because I like to meander when I talk, but my goal for today is not to tell you to do anything. I'm not telling you to do anything. I just want you to chew on what I'm talking about a little bit and say, like, how am I doing in this area of my programming? That's all, right? Can you walk out of here with 1 or 2 pieces of information that you can go and apply when the season starts in a month, right? So all of this is based on, like my experience with the kids that I work with, and it works really well for my kids, but it might not be what your kids need, right? And I'm happy to answer questions about, if you have specific questions about kind of your program's needs, but it's just meant to be thought-provoking. So here's what we're gonna do. First up, we're gonna talk some definitions, so that we're all on the same page. Then we're gonna talk about assessment of mobility and stability, and we'll talk a little intervention, and then kind of wrap it up with just a little summary. How can you implement this? Who do you need to partner with? And then hopefully have some time for questions. I do have a bunch of videos, so I wanted to give you guys as much as I could. And Rob, you're going to keep me on time, right?
I will.
Okay. All right. So first up, definitions. What are we even talking about when we say mobility and stability? What does that mean? Okay. So turn to your elbow partner or somebody around you and give them your definition of stretching. That means you actually have to talk to each other. Meet a neighbor.
Oh, I got it. Tell my students. Term and definition. Thank you.
Don't have to make it fancy.
Right.
Thank you.
I want to use different muscles Right.
All right. Can I get like 1 or 2 volunteers to share what they talked about with their neighbor? And this is just an exercise in, like, we all have different definitions. So what did we talk about?
We both kind of said the same thing, that it's lengthening of the muscles to make sure that the tightness is not in it when you're preparing for quick movement where the muscle's going to lengthen anyways.
Okay, love it. So I'm hearing lengthening of the muscle, I'm hearing preparedness, I'm hearing like the muscle is going to be asked to do something later and we want it to be ready. How many people hit something kind of like that? Okay, so here are 3 different definitions of stretching. One is from the Oxford Dictionary. Straighten or extend one's body part or a part of one's body part to its full length, typically so as to tighten one's muscles or in order to reach something. I have to stretch to get to the top shelf in my kitchen, right? But that's different than what we're talking about right now, okay? Here's a definition from physical therapy literature. This is like a very sciencey definition, right? Stretching is a form of physical exercise in which a specific muscle or tendon or muscle group is deliberately flexed or stretched in order to improve muscles' felt elasticity, right, that's a perception thing, and to achieve comfortable muscle tone, which is kind of what you were talking about, right? And then the third one, this is from a general population targeted, like, website, right, just for normal people to read, okay? Stretching is a physical exercise that requires putting a body part in a certain position that'll serve in the lengthening and elongation of the muscle or muscle group and thus enhance its flexibility and elasticity. Okay? Very specific to like the biology of what's happening in the muscle, right? So what do coaches really mean when they say we're stretching? Oh, we stretch at the beginning of every practice. How many people say that? Or some version of that, right? Like, oh, stretch it out, let's stretch it out. Okay? What do you really mean when you say that? Do you mean what the definition said? Or is it bigger? It's bigger. So what else does it mean?
Warming up.
Warming up, right? Gotta warm it up. Okay? How many people have heard of the ramp protocol? Anybody with an exercise science background probably knows this one. Okay? But this is what a warm-up is really for. Okay? We're trying to target 4 things. We're trying to raise the internal body temperature, including the temperature inside the muscle body, okay? We're trying to activate the muscles that are needed for the upcoming training session, which we said when you guys were chatting with each other. We're trying to mobilize and lubricate the joint, right? When you sit around, your joints get affected, it's more complicated than this, but they get dry, okay? And so when you start to move them around, your body releases lubrication in the joint to make it so that that joint is going to move freely, okay? And then the last thing is a nervous system thing. We need to potentiate, we need to increase the amount that the brain is talking to the muscle in order to prepare it for whatever intensity you're going to be doing in the training session, okay? So this potentiation piece might look different depending on your training day, okay? Or depending on the group that you're working with. Does potentiation for sprinters look a little different than it does for distance folks? Oh, for sure. Does potentiation on an interval day for distance look different than like a long, slow, right, like recovery day, right? So potentiation is just about getting the brain talking to the muscles at the same intensity that you're going to ask it to when you get in your training session, okay? So if you've never thought about your warm-up this way, you might already be doing all these things, right? But this is one of those things where you can just stop and do a little like tabulation, like how many of these things am I really thinking about when we warm up, okay? I would say the one that gets missed most often in terms of like intentional for the training session is this potentiation piece, okay? Most of us are really good at figuring out how to raise the body temperature, right? It's not hard. What do you have to do? Literally move, right? Like you just have to move, okay? So this is like, get out of your school desk and walk to the locker room and get changed and jog out to the track and then do whatever you get. Like they're gonna be fine, right? They're moving, okay? So that one's easy, the raise body temperature one. Mobilize, this is like, we all, like, you watch track athletes warm up, they do it differently than swimmers. You watch swimmers warm up, they do it differently than football players, right? We have a little bit different mobilization needed, right? But generally, sports coaches are pretty good at that because they understand what's going to be moving, okay? So this is the one that I think most people could pay a little bit more attention to. And if you have more questions about that, happy to answer those a little bit later. All right, so 4 definitions for you. Just working definitions so we all know we're talking about the same thing. Mobility is different than flexibility, y'all. We all know that? Mobility and flexibility, they're different, okay? Flexibility is specific to lengthening of the muscle, right? The muscle, okay? Mobility is about controlling a joint action, right? So we're talking about how well can we move a joint through its range of motion, not how long can we make the muscle. Do you need flexibility to some degree to be mobile? For sure. How much flexibility you need depends on what? Your events, yeah, or your sport even, right? Like my synchronized swimmers need a lot more flexibility to be mobile in the ways that are required for their sport. Your runners don't need that same level of flexibility to be mobile for their sport, okay? Stability. This is also different than balance, okay? Stability is the ability to control the forces coming at you to maintain your balance, okay? So it's about controlling forces, okay? Some people talk about this as like being able to absorb forces, okay? And then, for today, we're going to define assessment and intervention very broadly and very informally because that's how I want you to think about it. So assessment, any opportunity to measure, and I put measure because you don't need like equipment, you just need your eyeballs, okay? Any way to measure your athlete's current physical abilities, and then intervention, any opportunity to remediate the growth areas that you notice in the assessment, okay? So we're going to look at the assessment, and then we're going to figure out how we're going to fix it. Okay? It doesn't have to be fancy or formal. Okay? All of this, like many of us do it without really thinking about it. You're doing it all the time in your sport. As a coach in the weight room, this assessment is happening just as I'm watching every rep, right? What does the depth look like? How is our joint action, right? So for today, we're just talking really broadly about assessment intervention. All right. So I'm going to fly through the rest of the intro part here because I want to make sure that we have time to actually dig into the fun stuff. All right. So, some real coach talk. Doesn't matter what kind of information you have. Doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are. Everything that dictates how you can do your job depends on how much time do you have with your kids and how big of a group do you have. Right? Does it look different if you're working one-on-one with a kid? Right? You can dig deep on that kid, right? You can be like, hey man, your pinky toe is out of alignment. Okay? Right? And we've all done that, right? When the kid's like, hey coach, can I stay after for a little bit, right? You see a lot of different stuff when you can focus all your energy just on that one kid. But we don't get to do that. It would be awesome if we did, and it would be awesome if we got paid to do that, but we don't, okay? So I just want to acknowledge right up front, this whole conversation could be like a million times deeper if we were talking about assessing one athlete at a time. Okay? But my goal for you is to give you some tools where you can stand out there with all 50 or 100 of your kids and look and get some good work done without it being individualized. Okay? So here's how this is how I like the boxes I need to check in my brain in order for an assessment to be worth doing. It's got to be fast. I got to be able to do it with a small group or a big group. My summer groups are huge, right? I got to be able to do it in the weight room, outside, in a gym, on the track, in the grass, in the hallway. Before I got my new weight room, we did a lot of work in the hallway, right? So I need stuff that I can do wherever. It's got to be something that's really easy to teach. It's got to be something that's easy to interpret from the coach's perspective, right? I don't need to be doing like mental math, right? I just want to be able to look at it and see some stuff, okay? And when the kid gets better, it needs to be something where that growth is really obvious, right? So I can be like, hey, Alex, that looks so much better than last week. And it's like punching me in the face, obvious, right? So here are 4 sources that I really love. And you guys, there's a QR code at the end of this presentation that you can scan and have access to all of this, and you'll also get it later. But I put some links here and some social media handles for, this is the stuff that I don't use any one of these in isolation. I have my own stuff that I've stolen from these different places and put together for what works for my kids, okay? So the DMWA stands for the Dynamic Movement Warm-Up Assessment, and it was put together by Mike Bewley, who spent 20 plus years coaching Division I athletes in strength and conditioning. He was at Clemson for a long time. Really just like awesome dude. He put this together because he was like, man, I don't have time to do this assessment with every kid. And he's at a Division I big school where they maybe do have those resources, and even he was like, it's not working. I gotta have something that's better and faster. So he set up this cool thing I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it in a second, but the website here, when I was peeking at the website yesterday, he's got a sale right now, if it's something you're interested in. These two things cost money. This one is cheaper, this one is expensive, okay? But take a look, and if it's something like you got a couple $100 that you want to spend, you know, pick something that's educational, it's cool. I learned a lot from it when I first started looking at it. So DMW is designed for big groups, designed for coaches to use easily, okay? How many of you guys have heard of the FMS, Functional Movement Screen? Okay. Is anybody here trained in FMS? Okay. That's because it costs $600, okay? So FMS is what you will see, and it maybe has been used on you and you don't even know that it's been used on you if you've been to physical therapy in a clinic or anything. Functional movement screen, it's a fancy training, you gotta have some equipment to do it. I'm not saying it's bad, it's awesome. You can get some really cool data from it, but you gotta do all the assessments one kid at a time, and it's kind of meticulous. But there's certainly some good things to steal from this. I think the level 1 is like $600, and then the level 2 is another $600 or something. But you know, if you like to geek out on stuff like that, go for it. And then two of my favorite guys, my favorite strength and conditioning guys, the Bobbies, that I like to steal stuff from. Bobby Stroop has been Patrick Mahomes' strength coach since he was a kid, and he still works with him. Really, really cool stuff. And then Bobby Smith works out of a private facility in New Jersey. And this guy, like, you gotta have your big kid pants on if you go hang out with him, because he will not he is like high energy, he will get you moving, he will get in your face, like, but he does really cool stuff. So if you ever have the opportunity to hang out with either of those two guys, they're really great. I actually got to drive Bobby Street to the airport. They were like, we need somebody to drive Bobby, and I was like, me. Right? So you get to drive him to the airport, and you're like, tell me all about, like, I kind of wanted to take the long way to the airport so I could spend more time with him, but he was in a rush, so we didn't do that. So just really quickly, DWMA, again, designed for large groups. There's 10 movements. You don't have to do them all at the same time. There also are interventions contained within this. So like, you do one of the movements, you notice that there's something wrong, kind of across the board, it gives you some things to help that you can put in your programming. This is a quick and easy online course. Like, you could sit down and do it in a matter of 1 or 2 hours, depending on how much time you spend watching the videos. And it was developed by a practicing coach, which I think for all of us is really important. I don't need somebody from a clinic telling me what to do because they don't live in my world. Right? So again, FMS, it's an individualized thing. It allows for really specific intervention, but it is time consuming, the training is more expensive, and you have to have equipment, which means you gotta schlep stuff out to the track, or you gotta go somewhere else to do it, right? So maybe a little less practical. Bobby Stroop, this is Bobby. He does a ton of neurological stuff, and you like watch him do stuff, and you're like, dude, tell me why, right? Like, that seems crazy, but tell me why. And he can explain it all to you, but a lot of what he's doing is movement competency. Like, can children control their body parts in space? And he has really cool, fun ways to attack that. A lot of attention to the foot, ankle, knee, hip kind of connectivity. Does a lot of fun stuff with balance, and then also general athleticism, which I don't think any of us would be disappointed if our kids came back a little more athletic, right? And then Bobby Smith, I'm shocked that he's not wearing a whistle around his neck in this picture, because he is forever, he like can talk very articulately, but with a whistle in his mouth, which I find very impressive. I steal a lot of my ankle stiffness stuff from him. He's got lots of cool progressions. So if you do any of his trainings, there's some like stuff you can buy. There's like a specific warm-up one online. And if anybody wants the link, let me know. But everything is like really quick, up-tempo. He works with kids, right? So everything has to be really like attention-grabbing and fun to do. So he's a hoot. And both of those guys have great stuff on social media and on YouTube. All right, so analysis by paralysis. This happens to all of us, every single one of us. Where do you start when there is so much good information? Okay? So you come and listen to this talk, and I am just adding more to the stuff you already know, and now you have to filter through it and figure out, like, okay, I know a lot, but what can I actually use, right? We see new stuff, right? Like, social media is the worst Because 90% of what's on social media is garbage, and people are putting it there because they're like, if I put this cool exercise that I invented on social media, people are going to want to come train with me. But I guarantee if you went and watched that person's program, 90% of what they're doing is the same as everybody else. They just put the weird stuff on social media to have novelty, okay? Obviously, right, you go and you sit down and talk with other coaches. Sit down with 5 coaches, you're going to walk away with 5 different perspectives on, oh, how do you do this, right? And then, you know, as a coach, we're always worried, like, are we doing the right thing for our kids, right? So where do we start? Have y'all seen this analogy before? Okay, so are you spending time stressing out about the tiny little things, like the minutia of training your sport, and then worrying about the pebbles and the rocks later, like the fundamentals? Like, or are you starting with the fundamentals and saying, hey, look, we're going to focus on the fundamentals. We're going to make every kid really, really good at the fundamentals. And then if we have time, space, and energy for it, we're going to go ahead and pour some pebbles in there and some sand, right? But if you are taking this approach, you're probably wasting a lot of time because the minutia, like focusing on these tiny little things, you're not going to be able to fix those if your rocks are busted. Okay? So, what are the big rocks? These are my thoughts, okay? What are the things that have the potential to decrease injury the most, right? Like, are your kids deconditioned when they show up for track season in Minnesota? Probably, right? So, what do I need to tackle first? My kids probably needs a gentle reintroduction to being fit, right? Which is so hard to do. I was a spring season coach too, but I was in the pool, so it wasn't as annoying, right? But like, you're trapped in the gym, you're shoveling the track, you're like pulling all the mats out and doing stuff in the gym because you can't get outside until April or May sometime, right? So the spring season sucks, and I just want to acknowledge that, right? So when we look at the beginning of the spring season, what can I do to make sure that my athletes are gonna stay with me and not get injured during the season? Okay. What things can I tackle that have the potential to increase performance the most? That's what we want, ultimately. Okay. What are the most common issues on my team? And what are the easiest problems to tackle? Okay. So that's kind of how I think about it. This injury risk piece, I put this at the top for you guys because my experience with the track stuff at my school is just that we have, by the end of the second week of track, we have every kid walking into the training room being like, oh, I have shin splints. And you're like, okay, first of all, like half of you are just sore because you're out of shape. The other half of you, maybe, but also like probably not. And like you 3, you probably have shin splints, right? Like, but everybody is walking around injured. They think they're injured in the first 2 weeks of the season, right? So what can we do to help prevent that kind of stuff? So here's my big rocks when I think about just athletes at large. Show me a good athlete that doesn't have a good butt. I mean, there's athletes that have bad butts, but they're probably not very good, okay? Especially for y'all, glutes are so important, okay? I always joke with my kids that we spend more time talking about butt stuff in our weight room than like anything else, right? It's like, you wanna get faster? Like, gotta have better glutes. There's direct correlation between the thickness of your glute muscle and how fast you are. Okay? So glutes, huge. Okay? We gotta talk about the trunk because everything is attached to it. Ankles, right? Forever dealing with ankle stuff with anybody that runs. And then we got that hip and knee connection, right? What's between the hip and the knee? Quad and the hamstring, right? We don't need pulls in either of those places. And then the last one I put on here is shoulder stability, and I'm just putting that there because across the board, teenagers have terrible shoulder stability and really bad posture, so that's something that every teenager should do, okay? So, when we go to attack, I'm a big fan of, like, in our school, we're not allowed to say keep it simple, stupid, right? We have to say, like, keep it simple, silly, right? But it doesn't need to be complicated. So, it's time to play around with your body if you want. Okay? So, all of these are part part of the assessment that I do with my kids. My kids don't know it's an assessment. I don't talk about it being an assessment. I never tell them what the results of the assessment are because I'm looking globally at the whole group and saying, what do we need to work on? Okay? My kids just think this is warm-up. Just part of warm-up. Okay? So, this one is one of my favorite ones, and you're going to see a lot of these videos are actually from either before COVID or during COVID, so you're going to see a bunch of kids wearing masks and doing weird stuff, but that's just because it's COVID. So these kids are all now either graduated or seniors, but this is when they were freshmen. So, we fold over, we inchworm out, we go into an up dog, and then we lift back into a plank and walk the feet forward. Give me 3 things that we can assess just by watching this movement. Hamstring flexibility, hip mobility, say it louder, shoulder strength, right? So all of these gals in this video are swimmers. And let me see if I can play this. So we fold over. Notice every single one of them did that with perfectly straight legs. Did y'all see it? Okay. Most of your track athletes probably aren't going to do that. Okay. These guys are Gumbies by definition for their sport, right? So when we flip right here, okay, we get shoulder stability. If their shoulders are not stable, they will eat their neck like this, okay? They will look like this in up dog, okay? If they don't have good ankle mobility, they can't get their feet flipped all the way over. So from here, when you come through to up dog, they got to be able to flip their feet over and keep their legs off the ground. Kids that have bad shoulder stability will be here, right? And also, this is a great test of glute strength because in order to get my legs off the ground, I got to squeeze and push down and then get my shoulders moving, okay? I love doing this one, no shoes, okay? It's going to look different if you see it with no shoes on. They can fake it with their shoes on a little bit. I really believe that having a nice mobile ankle prevents a lot of issues. So we work hard to make sure that we can do both dorsiflexion and plantar flexion to a really nice range of motion, right? So you don't have to say anything to them, right? You watch them do it, you go, oh Jesus, my whole team has terrible hamstring mobility. Then we got to program some stuff in, and we'll talk about how to do that later. Okay? This is one that if you're willing, I would love to have everybody who's willing try this one with me. Okay? So this is my friend Lily here on the left, and this is Gabe. Lily is a synchronized swimmer. She's very mobile. Gabe is a baseball player, and less mobile. He's a baseball player. Okay? So here's over. If you want to try it, hop into the aisle or whatever. We're going to start. Toes out. Okay? Arms up so like starfish. Okay? Are we ready? Everybody's hips ready for this morning? Okay. So first move is you're just going to fold over and hang. Okay? Just hang there. Look between your legs. Relax the back of your neck. Gentlemen, relax the back of your neck. Okay? Now, some of you are really far away from your legs. If your trunk is really far away from your legs, what does that mean? Oh God, okay. Not necessarily. Okay. So, if you fold over and you can't get close to your legs, try this. Bend your knees a little bit and then relax. Okay? Now, if you really have super tight hamstrings, you might need to bend your knees quite a bit. Okay? So I always tell people, see if you can get your gut to rest right on your legs. And for some people that's not very far, and for some people it's further. Okay? So now, from there, drop it down into a squat. Now, if you're in jeans, bonus points. Okay? Now, here are the 2 things that I say to kids here. Make sure your whole foot is flat on the ground. If your foot is not flat on the ground, you probably need to move your feet wider and probably turn them out just a hair. Okay? Now, take your elbows and push until your knee is pointing the same direction as your middle toe. We're not to the hard part yet, but you're doing great. Okay? Now, here we go. Look forward. And this is where my buddy Gabe up here, this is where he loses it, okay? Arms go up. Keep your butt down. Try to make your back straight. Okay? And then stand. Oh, sweet Jesus. Jesus, take the wheel. Okay? So, now let's do one a little bit faster, because I always do one really slow, and then we go a little faster. So, up, fold, drop it, reach, stand. Okay? Can you see how in this one we can look at ankle mobility, hamstring flexibility, how your pelvis is aligned, because you'll see kids no Miley Cyrus, we're not trying to twerk right now, right? So, you can see and then this part, bam, upper back strength, shoulder flexibility, trunk strength, and balance. My big guys, like my linemen, they go like this. They get to hear my kids, we do this every day, right? So they're all pretty good at it, but some of my big dudes, when they're first learning how to do it, their arms go up and they just roll onto their ass. They just fall right over, okay? So this one, if I could recommend any one thing where you can get so much information about what's happening in your kids' bodies, this one is so good. Okay, so check this out. So Lily spends her life in a hypermobile sport. She has zero problem with this. Watch Gabe. He's like, look at his knees, right? I think he does one more here. Watch where his knees relative to his feet are when he goes up. See how he's valgus there, his knees are dropping in? Okay? That's a dangerous one. So with your female athletes, when you watch this one, if you see knee valgus, does everybody know what that is? Knees dropping in? Okay? If you see knees dropping in, indicator of what? Sad what? Sad glutes, right? The outside part of their glute is not firing to hold their legs open. Sad glutes means sad landing. That means every time that kid runs, their knee is probably doing this, right? Step, oh jeez. Step, knee drops in. So, gait analysis, if you have that kid run straight towards you, really take some video, have them run straight towards you, watch it in slow motion, because sometimes at normal speed you can't see it. Like, if you watch it in slow motion, they're landing and their leg is collapsing. Boom. This, massive ACL risk. Bad news bears, okay?
Do you think just a regular box jump too? Because when they load, the first thing.
Oh, for sure. You can do like a depth jump, right? We'll talk about that a little later. But if we're talking like we're out at the track, we don't have a bunch of stuff, this is such an easy thing to do to get that, right? You look at it and you're like, whoa.
See him start to load, junior high girls especially.
Oh yeah, like anyone, I mean, this is a very broad generalization. Most girls from 10 to 14, most probably struggle with that knee valgus a little bit. They just haven't had as much exposure to that development, and they're in the middle of weird puberty, right? They can't control their bodies, right? So that's where there's a super simple way to fix it though, okay? All right, here's another good one. You can try this one if you want to. This one, you've got to be a little more vulnerable with your neighbors if you want to try this one though, okay? So, this is a down dog with a lunge, and then we drop the elbow in and go up. Since I took this video, we actually reached the elbow down to the wrist and not the elbow, okay? So again, we got a swimmer here, football player. This kid just graduated from Bethel. Awesome football player. One of my favorite kids ever. Okay? Now, watch the down dog. I think they do one more here. Watch the down dog, right? Oh, crap. Hang on, let me try again. From the side angle, the down dog, again, we're tackling hamstring, shoulder stability, trunk strength, and ability to separate the pelvis from the legs. So watch right there. See the difference? Aaron's not getting super flat. He was also a baseball player and a basketball player. His shoulder mobility always sucked. Okay? So, if you want to try this one, no one? Fine, I'll do it myself. Okay? So, from here, right, start a good plank. When you push back, we're trying to rotate the elbows back and push so that we're not winging out. Okay? Push back, hit that down dog. We're looking for a straight line. Wrist, elbow, shoulder, hip. Okay? You want me to go sideways? I'm not going to put my butt in the camera though.
Too late. Yeah.
So, does everybody see the line? Wrist, elbow, shoulder, hip? Some kids, oh, this is a fun view. Some kids, they can't do this, they have to go here. And that's fine, right? If they have to bend their knees, that's fine. If they can bend their knees and get that straight line, it's not a shoulder stability issue, right? It's a hamstring issue, right? So you can tell, I don't overly coach these, right? Like I coach them enough so that they can like know what they're supposed to be trying to do, but I don't want to specifically coach these. I want to see what's showing up, right? I don't want them trying to fix stuff right away, because then they're masking what we're trying to fix, okay? So, down dog, okay? Then we step outside the hand. This right here, most guys, when they try to do this, they'll go here and they go, and you're like, nah, dude, get it up there, right? I tell them, pick it up and move it if you need to, right? So you want to get it right outside that pinky, okay? Then we're going to take this same arm, okay? And I go now to the wrist. This is great, okay? Because you're also looking at T-spine mobility here, okay? So we go down, we go open, watch for them to like flap this arm, because then they're cheating, okay? So that's a great one. That down dog, we should spend more time in, right? We should spend more time in down dog, just in general. Okay, this one, this is maybe the most track relevant one. So this kid on the left, my guy Christian, he was a freshman here. He is finishing up his freshman year at UMary playing football in North Dakota right now. And I wish, if I had been thinking ahead, I would have asked him to send me a video, because we did this his entire career with me. Go ahead and just watch what happens. So this is Rachel. Beautiful, nice straight line. Watch Christian in the back, or watch his leg in the back. See how he's not getting full extension there? Can you see it? That one's better, that's a better rep. But this leg, not good. Okay? These guys are both actually pretty good at this one. Most kids, when you first have them do it, I don't have a video of it because I delete bad videos, because no child wants a video of themselves doing something really bad floating around, right? So, when they first start on this one, they'll go here. So just the coaching cues on this one, opposite arm, opposite leg. All your track kids know how to do this, right? And then we're gonna double switch. So the back arm reaches forward and the front leg reaches back, okay? We're trying to get a straight line and a T, okay? So this stretch, and I don't like this with shoes on. This one is way better with shoes off. But now, we're testing ankle, knee, hip stability on this side. We're testing mobility, and then watch the hips right here, because kids that have unstable pelvis, like they're not strong in their trunk, they do this. They'll collapse in. Can you all see that? So from here, when they reach back, we're looking for square hips to the floor. And if they're weak, they'll either do this, or if this butt cheek takes over, they do this, right? So we're looking for them to be able to feel square hips to the ground. This one is so good. Also, you'll be shocked to know that most teenagers don't know what opposite means. Or they think they know, and you're like, opposite, and they go, bam, and you're like, no. And then the double switch gets them. So if you watch this one more time, Rachel actually gets her arms mixed up here. So that one's okay. And then she comes through, and she gets her arms mixed up when she steps. Oh, watch him fix it. Oh, wrong coat. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And this one, we're showing it walking. When I do this in the weight room, we just do it stationary, right? So we don't walk, we just stand at our station and do it. We just do like 5 or 6 reps on each side. No big deal, super fast. Okay, here's another really good one. This is McCabe. He's playing junior hockey right now. Okay. This is another swimmer. I have lots of swimmers now, sorry. So RDL thumbs up. So, what does this position look like that we already talked about? Down dog. Right? Bam, down dog. Okay? So, if kids are struggling to get into down dog, have them do this one and watch how much they have to bend their knees and then tell them to just, okay, now do down dog with that much knee bend. But this one is so good because this one screams compensation pattern. Okay? So, this is my favorite. They go like this. Okay, guys, RDL, thumbs up. And they go. Like, close. Try again, right? So we coach this, it's a hinge, right? Hinge, thumbs to the ceiling. Boom, right? Most of them will be here when they start, right? Again, this one's not necessarily shoulder stability. It can be, but shoulder strength, right? If you want to try this, stand up and try this right here. Bam. This is a lot of shoulder strength, right? And most of your runners that only run, they might not have the upper body strength to hit that position without jamming their head forward, okay? So again, if you can't keep your back flat, what is that? If I can't keep my back flat, what do I need to do? Yeah, bend the knees a little bit, okay? So it's kind of a self-correcting movement. Okay, my guy in the red. Everybody turn around and watch. Don't change anything. Okay. So, what do you see? Head down, mid-back is pushed out, right? So stand up, bend your knees like a nice soft landing. Try it again. Don't push your head down. Yeah, that's better. That's better, right? But that would be one where we look at that and we go, okay, we have some like posture stuff that we can work on. And if the posture's bad there, do you think maybe their running posture is probably not great, right? All right, I think we got one more here. You guys are being such good participators. Okay, so when I talked about Bobby Smith, okay, he does a lot of dynamic stuff. This is called CNS prep. CNS, biology people? Thank you, central nervous system. So central nervous system, we are now doing which part of the ramp warm-up? Potentiate. Okay, so now we're ramping up the brain activity, brain talking to the muscles. This is so fast. And if I left the sound on, you would hear me just yelling out the cues. Side to side, front to back, make a V, jumping jacks. Jumping jacks, I can't stand watching most teenagers do jumping jacks, they're painful. High knees. This is hopscotch, 2-1-2. My kids now, we move. When we do this one, 2-1-2. Just a little chop feet, okay? And then we go hip twist. This is a great one for looking just at like spinal rotation. You can see my friend Lily here, she's not very good at that. Mountain climbers, checking on that shoulder stability, core strength, that kind of stuff. And then we move hands out in, look at the butt, right? Zero trunk stability if their butt's wiggling around, right? So we want to get that top and bottom connected so that their butt's not jiggling around. That's CNS prep 1. There's 2 more. The second one does like triangle, split jumps, make a square, T-jacks, high knee skip, figure 4. So it's just a little bit more advanced. And then the third version is single leg. And if you really want to see some interesting things, that single leg one is an eye opener, okay? But also more advanced, so I wouldn't recommend starting with that, okay? So CNS prep. This we do, so we do our movement prep, we do those assessment movements, and we usually do 3 or 4 of them a day. Then we do our CNS prep, and we're ready to rock, right? My kids are doing stuff different than you. You would then maybe like add the rest of your actual track stuff after that. But this is a great way to start, and all of this together, 4 minutes. It's quick. It's really quick.
What do you usually have on the time to watch?
When I have football in with me, I've got like 65. And when I've got gymnastics in with me, I have 8. So that's why I said at the beginning, right? We want something. I don't want to have to write a different prep for every team because the numbers are different, right? We do the same thing. And I do this with all my kids. Every single one of my teams learns this. And it doesn't change super often. I have, like, the ones that I showed you here are the ones that I use the most. There's a bunch more that I'll rotate in, especially in the summer when I have a little more time. But I throw in 3 to 4 movement preps, a CNS prep, and we're good to go. Okay. Oh, sorry. So, the beauty of this assessment thing is now you've killed 2 birds with 1 stone. You've done an assessment with your kids. You know, like, okay, this week I need to program in some extra hip stability, or I need to program in a little extra ankle mobility, or whatever. And you also did your warm-up, right? Check both boxes. It's awesome. So, interventions. I have like 30 videos. We're not going to watch them all. But they're here if you want them. Or we're just going to watch a couple reps of each. So, for your intervention, my dear colleague Al Oaxaca, who's been a coach for a very long time, he says to his students in his classroom, just because you're in here breathing the air doesn't mean you're getting any better. Okay? So all of these interventions need to be intentional and coached and done with intention. They can't be sloppy, right? Otherwise you're not going to see any improvement. So I just think it's valid to just like point out, kids that are doing these interventions, they need to know what they're supposed to be doing and they need to be coached on whether they're doing it right or wrong. Okay? The assessments, don't overcoach them, right? Just tell them what they're supposed to be doing and see what happens. So I divided this up kind of between those main categories. So glutes, this is the simplest intervention if you have a lazy glute. It's the simplest one. So we got 2 options here. This is obviously the most basic option. Still awesome. This is a very advanced option with elevated feet, nice flexed foot, and the dumbbell. But you can do this with a march, pick up one leg, put it down. Lift, pick up one leg, put it down. That's a great option if you got no equipment. You don't need equipment for this, right? Most people with lazy glutes, it's a neurological issue. It's not a muscular strength issue. Their brain just doesn't, it's like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Butt's like, I can't hear you. Okay? So it's just getting the brain to talk. And this is a great way to do it because you can't cheat. It's really, really hard to cheat. So I program, my kids do some version of a glute bridge. Always, 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 always. Here's a staggered stance RDL. And all of these things that we're doing with implements, right, you can do these body weight. There's nothing saying that you have to have weights, okay? You can do these with body weight, you could do it with a plate, you could do it with a discus, I don't care, right? But it's a kickstand, so it's not a step, okay? It's stand square, kickstand the toe, okay? I'm like 95% weight on this side. This is just for balance, okay? And then it's that same RDL with thumbs up movement, but now we've got dumbbells, okay? This will light up hamstring and glute. I like it better than a regular RDL. Okay, a little trunk stability. Oh, what, coach? A deadlift for trunk stability? Yeah. Better trunk activation in a deadlift than any core exercise that exists. Right? If you hook up an EMG to people doing core exercises and doing a deadlift, you get better core activation doing a deadlift. This is my boy Mason. He loves a deadlift, but he really was mad at me when I told him to do it with dumbbells and not the trap bar, because that's his stupid. Okay, this one is fancy, but I like this one for motor learning. This is called a sit-through. Bottom of the foot goes to the wall, and then hand high-fives the wall. Okay? This one, if you want to try this one and really feel like an idiot, let's do it. Okay? Because the first couple times you try this, you will fall over. Okay? So, tabletop. Okay? This is a nice tabletop with knees off the ground. This foot, my left foot is going to pivot. My right foot's going to come through. Foot to the wall, high-five the wall. This foot is down. Okay? And my butt is not on the ground, but it's low to the ground. Okay? So let's try one more time. So tabletop, left foot pivots, right foot goes under. Point the bottom of your foot at the wall. High-five the wall with this hand. Okay? And then you come through, and then just flip it onto the other side. Oh, jeez. Running this show. Okay. So, now, okay. Stay there. Stay there. Stay there. Do it again. Do it again, but don't rewind. Okay, watch. Watch, watch. Do it again. See how when he reaches his butt's coming really far off the ground? Take your back foot and turn your toes more towards the back of the ground. The one that's pivoting, open up more. Even more. turn your right toes to the back of the room. There it is. See it? Now he can get his butt nice and low. Ooh, right? That's good. That's good. So that one, so many cool things happening there. Okay? I like to give my kids like brain tasks, right? Because when you get good at learning new things, it doesn't matter what you're learning, you'll be good at learning new things. Right? So I like to give my kids weird stuff to do sometimes that is productive but also neurologically stimulating. This is brutal and awesome, and I think every runner should do it. So there's a band there. I don't know if you can see the band. Okay. So he's pulling into lat activation, just like you would if you were going to bench press. He's holding that band tight. Trunk is fired up. Like low belly is turned on, right? So now we got pelvic floor involved, and nothing moves except the leg. This is Connor. He's now swimming at St. Cloud. We're going heel tap. I would love to see him reach that a little longer. You'll see he's shortened it a little bit, right? But this is still a really good effort. So what we're looking for there is right here, this trunk section, zero movement, and a nice long neck, okay? That, you have to coach them to remember to breathe, okay? But that one is so good.
Is that one band?
Just one band, just like looped on itself, and pull tight. Thanks, Rob. Okay, so this is like, okay, you could call it rotational strength. It's not. It's really just a balance exercise. Okay, remember at the beginning we talked about stability being like forces moving and you having to adapt to the force moving. That's just like a 10-pound med ball. And again, I would prefer this with shoes off. Anything you can do safely with shoes off, rock it. So good for their foot. Okay, now, everybody familiar with a pistol squat? Can anybody in here do a pistol squat? My knees are wrecked. I bet you can do it. Yeah, come on and show us a pistol squat. I got a jacked knee since 1997.
Just like.
Just show me a regular one. Pick you good, like, yeah. There we go. Nice. Okay, turn sideways for me so you can see. I love a pistol squat because the ankle mobility is so good. And balance and core strength and all that. Like, yeah, it's great. It's nice, quad hand, whatever. Right? But this is a great balance exercise. Most people can't do it. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. So here's what we do. We do pistol roll-ups. We start from the bottom, and you'll see my girl I yell at here in the front. Let me start this over. Watch the girl right here at the beginning. She like can't do it at all, but she can get onto her foot and practice the balance, and that's all we're asking her to do. Right there, bam, oh, fall over, put the hand down, try again, right? So then we got like Zach here. This is Zach like 3 years ago. Zach now is a monster at these. He almost like jumps off the ground when he does these. But they're really fun. The kids really like doing them. They're super fun. They're very low risk because if you fall over, your butt's like 3 inches from the ground and the kids like flop around. It's like, it's a riot, but these are super awesome. And like I would probably, if I had more time, I would do these more often, but these happened in the early part of our winter training cycle, so now we're up to doing, we're doing single leg squat to bench now instead of doing these, but they were in my program for like 3 months.
Jessica?
Yeah.
Do your videos, like when we watch them, do they have coaching points? Like you've been kind of saying something, say watch for this, watch for this, watch for this.
They don't, but I can certainly go back into this slideshow and add some coaching points to the comment or to the speaker notes,
That'd be great.
if that helps. Okay, this is a heel-free split squat. We're gonna fly through some more of these. Now, this is Fano. He's headed to St. Thomas to play football next year. This is too high. I want that foot more parallel, but it's heel-free. So his heel is off that plate, right? So imagine that this like black circle is the plate. I'm gonna put my forefoot on there, and the heel's gonna be free, but just keep it neutral. It doesn't need to be like in a calf raise. Just keep it neutral. Really good isometric for like the Achilles and all kinds of good stuff around the knee. And again, you could do this like off of the uneven cement ledge on your track if you have one of those, because we have one of those, right? It's like a major tripping hazard, but it's great if you need to elevate your foot a little bit, okay? So it doesn't have to be fancy. You could do it on a yoga block. I keep yoga blocks in my room I'm using for all kinds of stuff. Here's that depth jump that Alex was talking about. I like to do it with a single leg landing. You can do it with a bilateral landing too. Stick it, okay? So this is Fano again on the side here. This kid's in the Air Force now. Stick the landing. Now watch the knee. Okay, watch the knee. Super stable right there, right? So what we were talking about before, you'll see wiggle. And it's easier to see from a front angle. Okay, and if you see that, we got to put in some more of that glute stuff. All right, here's a variation on a lunge that I love. People are like, oh my God, don't go knee over toe on a lunge. BS. Okay? Your sport happens knee over toe, right? Right? Okay? So why would we not train that way? Body's doing it all the time. So we take a nice big step back. This is my girls in the Air Force Academy right now. And we go really long step with a nice long angle. If you see Jack over here, he's not stepping far enough. If you step far enough, you will have to lean like this. So chest over knee, knee over toe. You can also see here upper back strength. You'll have kids that are weaker and they just collapse over that knee, right? Obviously, that's something to look at. Everybody's least favorite exercise, the rear foot elevated split squat. Watch Sophia at the bottom, okay? So this is how I coach this one. We drop down, we slide back, put a little extra work into that patellar tendon on the back knee. Slide it back, so booty to heel. Nice erect torso. Her toes aren't grabbing in the front. Obviously, this is great quad, hamstring, glute, upper body, balance, right? But that little slide back, right? Any of your kids that have patellar tendon issues, right? Or that Ashka slide or whatever, right? That's going to help with that. This is a hard one, 2 different versions. It's a skater squat. I got yoga blocks here. I would like this foot a little bit more further forward. So again, he's reaching further back. So this would be a progression on that lunge that I just showed you. And then this is Zach who can go. This is a little sloppy, but this is when he was transitioning from using a block to actually being able to go to the floor. So it's a little wobbly, but that's all right. He crushes those now. Okay, Copenhagen plank. Room full of track coders. How many of you guys program these? Anybody use a Copenhagen plank? Let me show it to you because sometimes people name things different. Y'all familiar with these? Oh, these are awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Ankle, knee, hip, groin, shoulder on the down arm, trunk. If you're not doing these, give them a try. This is a hard progression. We start with this foot stacked on 2 yoga blocks, and we go 2 feet to start, right? So we start with 2 feet on the block, it's just a little hip dip, right? And then we start, I let them cheat, right? They use the bottom leg to push themselves up, and then they go eccentric with no help, right? But these are great. If you Google Copenhagen plank variations, there's a million of them, but I love those. Okay, this is me. And this video is really hard to see. What we're watching for here is watch my foot. You can see the white on my shoe. It flies out to the side. Okay, you guys see that? So this is, my kids hate this. I've only ever put it in for like 3 weeks at a time, but this is awesome. Okay, we go 2 dumbbells straight up. Okay, so it's an isometric on the shoulder. Okay, lots of trunk involvement. Your glutes have to be fired up, and we want to step straight through. Okay, I have a hard time with this, right? So this foot wings out just a little bit, but we want to try to step straight through, and then step back, and then straight through again. Okay, so if they're flying their leg out, right, that might be an indicator of hip flexor weakness, right? We want them to be able to step straight through. Okay. Again, that one is a little easier. I don't like with shoes on. I catch my shoe, and the kids will catch their shoe, and then they fall over. Okay, windmills. These are good. Jack in the back kind of sucks at this one. Aaron's better at it. But Jack is actually, he was a really tight kid. So if you look, he's getting a little bit more curve laterally, right? Like his obliques are not firing as well. Aaron's are way better. You can coach this one with, the setup of this is kind of weird. It's kind of confusing for kids, but once they get it, it makes sense. So stand square, turn one toe out, step it out, keep the bend, right? And then it's just, this hand slides down the inside of the leg, and this is holding, I love this kettlebell, is better than dumbbell, I think, right? But you can make it shorter, make it longer, depending on their current ability. It's a great one. You can also do it kneeling. So you can go kneel here, and then we just go elbow to the floor. So lots of options on that one. I like that one because it's a dynamic core exercise, okay? Oh my gosh, okay. I have 2 more slides for you. So, That was a lot of videos. Please watch them as many times as you want to, or email me and we can talk through it if you want. So last couple things. How do we implement? Doesn't need to be a big deal. Take each of those assessments, do 1 or 2 each day. It maybe adds 2 to 3 minutes. Is there something that you have in your warm-up right now that maybe you could swap it out for? Okay. Spread the interventions out throughout the week. If your kids are lifting, which they should be, this with the lifting, if you collaborate with your strength coach, lifting should take care of it. Okay? And you could either, based on your assessment, say like, okay, I saw this week that our ankle mobility is trash, we're gonna try to fix that, we're gonna work on that for like 2 weeks. And then check it again, and if it's better, then pick something else to work on, okay? Or, you might look at the beginning of the season and see like, okay, I see my team has 5 issues. Each day of the week, we're gonna work on one different thing, and you just spread it out across the season, okay? Please partner with the people that you have. I realize not everyone, especially if you're here from a small school, not everybody has a strength coach. Alex and I were just joking, like, some people, they just think, oh yeah, we got a guy. It's just like a random person that like, Alex Zach is calling, can you maybe?
Yes.
Sorry, our next person. Like, if you just have a random person that opens the weight room for you and doesn't actually program for you, please reach out for help. You can talk to any of us that are MSCA people. We want to help you have a quality program for your kids to do. If you have someone who programs for you, that's awesome and you're lucky, please use them as much as you can. Here in Minnesota where we are like weather dependent, right? Having your kids in a preseason strength program will help with your injuries early season. Okay? And how many people, show of hands, people have an athletic trainer, access to an athletic trainer? Awesome, okay. My athletic trainer's so good, I love him to death. He is like, he helped me a lot with this presentation also, just to make sure I wasn't missing stuff. He's the one that's gonna manage your medical referrals. If you got a kid that really has something showing up that is bad, send them to the trainer. You do not need to fix that, okay? They will manage those specific interventions as needed. And they have way more fun stuff, right? They can put on the compression things and all the stuff that I wish I could have done to myself every day. So partner with those folks. The one thing I do want to say, we talked a lot about strength training interventions today, and the reason I want to point out that we didn't talk a lot about like, here's a hamstring stretch and here's a quad stretch, is because the research is really strong that a quality strength training program shows just as much flexibility improvement as a stretching program, and you're also getting stronger while you're doing it, so why not do both at the same time, okay? That's, like, I am all about efficiency. Why do 2 things when you can do one? Okay? All right, there is the QR code if you want to scan it. It'll also be, Rob, it'll be on the website, right?
Yep.
My information is there. I'm easy to find. My social media is SLP Lift on Twitter and Instagram. You can email me here. This is my school number. If you call me on there, I probably won't answer it. Because only mean parents call me on that number. But if you email me, I can give you my cell phone number. If you want to chat, I would love to do that. All right, we good on the QR code? If we got it? If it's not working,